Alright, so it's time for us to work on the admin page and admin abilities. And the first thing I want to do here is to create more users and more listings. And for that, we want to use our database seeder once again. So let's open our factories and then listing factory. Right here, we are setting the user ID to either 1 or 2, but I want to have more users. So for example, 6. So I can put these IDs 1 through 6, and I can close this one, then open our database seeder document and generate 6 users, also generate maybe 50 listings. And we can close this one. Then we can open our terminal and type PHP artisan migrate fresh to clear everything first. And then we can run PHP artisan db seed. So now we have our data. If we go back to our website and reload, we have 50 listings and 6 users. So let's open our database and modify this first user to be our admin. So I will change the name to admin and the email to admin@email.com, for example, and also the role to admin. And we can close this for now. So of course, we need a controller for our admin, and we also need some routes and view components. And from there, we can start working on our admin page. So let's just start by creating a controller for our admin. Again, in the terminal, I can say PHP artisan make controller, and I would call this admin controller. And this will create the controller inside the controllers folder. So let's open that in our app, HTTP controllers and admin controller right here. In here, we want to have our first function, and this would be the function that would return the admin page or admin component. So I would call it index, and for now, let's just add a comment, but we will come back to it when we create our route and component. So the next step is to go to our web.php where our routes are sitting. I'm just going to add some comments first. So we have our user profile routes, listing routes, and we want our admin routes here. And this is, of course, our auth routes, which is coming from another document. Now, right here, for now, let's just have a get route that would go to /admin. We want to pass an array, use our admin controller, and the method index. Let's also give it a name, and I would call it admin.index. So this is just temporary, and we will come back to this later on. Now let's create a component for this inside our pages folder. In resources, JS, pages, I'm going to create a new folder first. I would call it admin. Then within that, I will have admin dashboard.view. Then in this view component, we will simply just have our script tag and our template and a text that says admin. So we have our view component, we have our route, and we have our controller and the index method, which is going to render that component. So in this index method, we want to return our component using Inertia render. So this is inside admin folder, and I called it admin dashboard. So now if we go back to our website and manually go to /admin, there we have our text. And in here, we want to have a table with all the users. So let me log in with the admin user we just created. And the password for this one is the text password if you used the database seeder like me. So I'm going to log in, and this is my dashboard, of course, that every user would have, and these are my listings. But we want to have another link here that would go to the admin dashboard if this user is admin. So let's open our main view component. So this is where our navigation is sitting. And right here, we have an auth section, which is rendering that button and the drop-down menu. So what we see on our website. So I want to have a button or a link next to this container, which is for the name. And I'm going to just copy that theme switch button, which is down here. I will just copy that and paste it under this div that has the username. Then I will change the button to a link component from Inertia and delete this at click. And for the icon, I would just use lock. And if we go back to the website, you notice it's under the name, and we want to just add some classes to this container to fix that problem. So that is this div right here with the relative class. We just want to add flex, item center, and gap 4. Now it's fixed, and when we click on this, we want to go to the admin page. we already have the route. Let's use the href on this link and bind that to the route function and to the admin.index, which we just created in our web.php. All right, so back to the link component in our main Vue component. This is that button. So back to the website, here it is. If I click on it, we go to the admin page. And of course, if you prefer, you can include this link inside this drop-down menu, but we want to make this visible only if the user is admin. So right now we are rendering this section for the auth users based on this user variable, which is coming from our page props. So this is the global props that we defined in the very first videos, and it is exposed to our whole Inertia application. If we open our handle Inertia request middleware and take a look at the share function, this is where we expose that user and only the properties we want. So in this case, it is only the ID and the name. Now, what we can do here is add the role property as well. So I can just simply add role here. And now I can check if the user role is admin, then show that link, otherwise don't. So let's save this and close it. Back to main.vue. We want to go back to the link we just created, this one. And I want to add a if directive and check if user role is admin. So if this is true, we will see the link. And back to the website, we have still our link. If we go back and open the database once again and change this role to general and back to the website, give it a reload, you notice it's gone because this user is no longer the admin. So let me bring it back so we can see the link. So that was just the first step, adding a component and a route and a link so we can easily access that now. The next step is to protect this route and all the routes that belong to an admin user. And for that, we are going to use some built-in middlewares and a custom middleware. So let's do this. And for the sake of practice, I will do this in our web.php because we already know how we can apply middlewares in a controller, which we did in our listing controller. However, for our admin routes, I'm going to apply the middlewares right here in the web.php. So I'm going to delete this whole thing or cut it, doesn't matter. And instead of saying get, I can use the middleware function on the route facade. In this function, we can pass a string if we have only one middleware, or we can pass an array if we want to have multiple middlewares. So I would like to have auth and verified, and then we will have our custom middleware right here. So right now we don't have it, so let's just ignore that. Then we want to use the group function and pass a closure or function in here, and then bring back our admin route. So all we did here, we wrapped our route with a middleware group. We can also add another function here. If we take a look at our profile routes, we are using two different controllers in this group. But if we have a group that is using the same middleware for all the routes, we can use a controller function to make our routes cleaner, so we don't have to repeat this part over and over again. So before the group function, I'm going to press enter to add a line, and then above that, or before that, I'm going to use a controller function. This function is looking for the controller we want to use for all the routes in this group. And in this case, it is our admin controller. So I can cut it from this route statement and paste it here. So you notice we are bringing the class itself. Then this get route doesn't need a controller anymore. Therefore, we can delete these brackets. So I can delete this one and the closing one, and we are just passing down the URI and the method which is going to handle that, and of course the name. So now our routes are cleaner, and if we want to add other routes, we can simply repeat the process and we don't have to say admin controller every time. And this is our admin routes so far. And of course, back to the website, nothing changes because we are logged in and we are verified. But we need one more middleware to say if the authenticated user is not admin, then they cannot access this page. So let's create a custom middleware for this one. And we can go to the terminal and say PHP artisan make middleware, and I will call this admin. So this will create that document inside the middleware folder. And if we go back to the project, we can find that under HTTP middleware and admin. Similar to what we did with not suspended middleware, we just want to check if this authenticated user is not admin, then go back to the homepage, for example, Otherwise, carry on with the request. So let's add an if statement here and say request user, and then we want to check for the role and say if it is not admin, then go back to the home page. So let's return redirect and then use the route function and pass the home page as a string. And now we can use our middleware in our web.php for our admin routes. So right here, we have two middlewares. Let's add our admin middleware as well. So make sure you import it from the correct folder, and we want to pass down the class itself. And now our routes is protected with this middleware. So back to the website. Again, nothing's going to happen because this user is admin. Let's open our database and again, change the role to general. Now, if we go back to the website and reload, you notice we get back to the home page because we are no longer the admin. So that is working, and we can turn this back to admin once again and close the database. Now, the next step is to actually create our table or the markup. But before we do that, I just want to show you, instead of checking the role like this in our admin middleware, we could create a function in the user model and call that function anywhere we want to check for the role of a user. So let me open our user model, and at the very bottom of this class, I can create a new function. I will call this isAdmin like this, and I simply want to check if this class or this model role is admin. So if the user is admin, this will return true, otherwise it would be false. Now we can go back to the admin middleware, and instead of checking the role like this, we can say if the user is admin using the function we just created. But this will return true if the user is admin, and we don't want to go back to the homepage if it is true, so we want to negate this. So if it is not true, then we go to the homepage. Otherwise, we carry on to the next request, which is the admin page. Back to the website. If we reload and go to the admin page, everything works. Now, the benefit of this, creating a function in the model, is that if you want to add more conditions, it is much easier, and you can always call this function anywhere in your application. For example, you want to say the user role is admin, and their email, for example, is something specific, or you have other conditions you want to add. So this is a better practice, and I'm going to keep it as it is. And if I want to check for the user role, I would just call this function on the user object. So let's close some of these documents, for example, middleware and this web.php for now, main.vue, and let's open our admin dashboard. So this is the page we are looking at, which is empty. We want to create a table here. I'm going to start with the markup without any dynamic values. As a start, I will have a head tag. For the title of this page, I will just say admin. Then we will have our heading. So I will just add a div for now and say heading, and we will come back to it later. Then we will have our table and add a table tag, also some classes. So I'm just adding a different background for dark and light. Set the width to full, rounded corners, overflow hidden, and some border or a ring in this case. Then we will have our table head, so T head, and then within that we have a TR for a table row. Then I'm going to add some classes for the table row, and then within that we will have a TH. So this will be for the name of the user, and let's add some classes, for example, some width and padding all around 3. Then I'm going to copy paste this 3 times. We will have a column for a role and listings and view. I will also change the width for these other columns. So I will just change the numbers here, and this will be our table head. If we take a look at it, this is what it looks like, and this is in the dark mode. All right, let's continue. Under that table head, we will have our table body. And again, I'm going to add some classes. So I'm adding divide y, which will add a horizontal line under each row. And I'm just setting the style and the color of that line. Then we will have our table row. Within that, we will have a table data. And for this one, I will have a p tag that says username and another one that says email. Now on the table data, I'm just going to add some classes. So set the width to 3.6 and padding y 5 and padding x 3. I'm also going to add some classes for these two p tags. So for the name, I will say font bold and margin bottom 1. For the email, I would say font light and text extra small. Then I will copy this table data and paste it underneath. I will delete the content within it, and I will just say user role. and I will set the width to 2.6, and the rest is going to be the same. Again, let's copy this table data, paste it underneath. This is going to be for listings, and the width is going to be 1.6. And we need one more table data that is going to be for the view link. And I want to set the text to right for this one. So let me check if I did this for the header too. Now I forgot to do that, so this has to be text right as well. So this is our table body, and if we go down, we have the closing tag of our table right here. Under that, we will have a div with margin top 6. Within here, we will have our pagination. All right, so back to the website, this is what we have, and we want to, of course, populate these data from our database and have a row for each user. So let's do this. Back to our admin controller, we want to send the users and their listings to the component as a prop. So I'm going to create a users variable up here, and I will set this to user model. Then I can use the with method to bring in the user's listing. So this is looking for a relation, right? And we can pass down the listings. So this name is the same name in our user model and the function which defines the relationship. So if you called this one, for example, user listings, then in here you should say user listings. And we just want to add paginate and say maybe 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. For now, let's say 10, and we will come back to it because we have to add more conditions to this. Now let's send this as a prop to our component. So we can say users is going to be users. Now back to admin dashboard. In the script tag, let's define our props, and we want to say our users is going to be an object, and I will just log that into the console. Okay, back to the website. Let's open the console. And if we reload, we have our object, which is our pagination links and all the information about pagination. And within the data array, we have our users. So we want to loop over this data array and populate our table. And if we open each user or each object within this data array, you notice listings are also included. And that's because we used the with method and said, bring the users with their listings. Let's close this one, back to the project, and let's loop over that user's data array and repeat this table row for each user. So on this table row, I can use the v4 directive and say for each user in users.data, and then bind the key attribute to user.id. And we just want to replace these texts with the dynamic value we have. So for the name, I can say user.name. Same thing for email, user.email. For the role, I can just say user.role, but we will come back to this. And for the listings, I just want to have a count of their listings. So I can say user.listings.length. And the view link, of course, is going to be a view link. For now, we will just leave it empty because we don't have a page for it. Back to the website, you can see we have our users, and we can in fact bring in our pagination links as well. So let's do this. In the script tag, I can import pagination links from our components folder. Then we can go to the very bottom, and right here we have a placeholder. We can use our pagination links and bind the paginator to the user's object we have as a prop. So now in our website, we can see we have 6 results, and these are the pages. If we go back to admin controller and change this number, for example, to 2, and then back to the website, we can navigate between the pages. So everything is working properly, and I will set this back to 10. Now this is just a basic table, and we want to kind of make this better. For starter, this role, which is just a text, I want to make this into a drop-down menu where you can change the role of the user when you click on it. And for the listings, I don't want to show just the total listing. I want to show the approved and disapproved listings. So we will have 2 numbers here. And of course, for the view link, we will just have an icon that would go to this user's page or any user. And on that page, we will have the detailed view of their listings. So let's do the listings first, which is easier. We want to go back to the admin dashboard. And right here, we have the user's listing. So I'm going to just delete this part and press enter, and then add a div within this table data with some classes. So I would say flex, items center, and gap 6. Then within that, I will have another div with some more classes, flex, item center, and gap 1. Now in here, I want to have a p tag, with a number. So I'm just going to hard code it for now. And then an icon that is going to be FA solid and FA circle check. And also set the color to green. So text green 400 or 500, doesn't matter. And back to the website. This is for our approved listings. Then I can copy this div and paste it underneath and change the icon to circle X mark and the color to red. And this is what we have. Now, of course, we want to make these numbers dynamic. So we want to grab the user's listings and then return an array based on a condition and then check the length of that array. And for that, we can use the filter method of JavaScript. So this is looking for a callback function, and as a parameter, it will take a value which will be our iterator. So I will call it L and then an arrow and just check if this element or listing is approved. So if this is true, then we will have a new array with the listings that are approved. And then I just want to check for the length of this array. So back to the website, at the moment, all the listings are approved and we can see the numbers right here. And we want to do the opposite for the disapproved listings. Let's just copy this statement and paste it down here. And we just want to negate this condition. So instead of saying listings are approved, we want to say not approved by adding an exclamation mark. And that's it. So back to the website, you can see all of them are 0 because we don't have any disapproved listings. Let me go back and open our database to the listings table. And I'm just going to turn one of these to disapproved. It doesn't matter which one. And close the database. Back to the website. If we reload, you notice we have one disapproved right here. Alright, so this is our table so far. The next step is to handle the role of the users. And we will do that in the next video because it requires a bit of work and I don't want to make the videos too long. So let's do the user role in the next video.